this edition of The Fourth Gear, sponsored by Classic Auto Insurance. I'm your host, Jeff Broadus, and today we are here with Bob Sellers, who is the VP and COO of Reliable Carriers. Bob, hello, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, gosh, I've known you a long time, but maybe a lot of our viewers haven't. So why don't you bring us up to speed of where you came from, how you got in the business, and what you're doing today?
Oh my goodness. I'll try to condense that down. It's a long time. You know, I graduated from college in the mid 70s when there weren't any jobs. And I saw an ad in the placement office for a Ryder truck rental. They were looking for people. So I applied and they hired me as a management trainee. And at the time, I really truly did think the fifth wheel was a spare. And I ended up spending 20 plus years there. And then an opportunity came along in the automotive transport business for a company that was close to my home. And I had spent the better part of those 20 years moving my family. So it was an opportunity for me to kind of give back and stay close to home. And so I went to work for one of our competitors and was there for 13 years, and then decided that I needed to do something a little bit different, and didn't intend on staying in the auto transport business. But then Tom Abrams, who was the owner of Reliable Carriers, tracked me down and said, "You need to stay in the auto transport business and work for me." The rest, as they say, is history. And ironically, I've been here 13 years. I've been in transportation 40 plus years of my life. Been around cars 26 years. So cars, I tell people all the time, if you're a guy, I get to play with big fancy trucks and $1 million cars. Doesn't get much better than that.
And you see your trucks everywhere. It's hard to go up and down the highway without seeing one of your trucks pass down the street, and if you go to any event, your trucks are lined up one after the other, pulling cars off, picking cars up. The logistics of all of that has to be challenging. I mean, let's talk a little bit about that. Somebody picks up my car in Florida and is going to take it to California. Does that same truck take it all the way out, or does it have a hub and it might change?
Well, you know, we have an interesting, first of all, you're right. It is a logistical puzzle. And we operate right now about 375 trucks. So multiply that times 6 cars on every truck, and you can see how many cars we have in motion at any given moment. But we've got a beautiful, well-trained and long-tenured staff at the operations department. And we run things sort of like air traffic control. We have 5 offices around the country. And so when a truck, for example, leaves Detroit, once it gets to Colorado, it gets handed off to the Western Dispatch in Chandler, Arizona. Same thing when that truck leaves Arizona and heads for Florida. When it gets into Texas, it gets taken over by the Orlando Dispatch. So that's kind of how we do it. But it is very sophisticated. For the big events that you're talking about, like Pebble Beach or something like that, we literally have dispatchers on the ground controlling the trucks that are in that area. And at Pebble Beach, for example, that's anywhere from 75 to 100 trucks that are somewhere near the peninsula that weekend. So, you know, but as far as when you're, 99% of the time, the car stays on the same truck. Now, my competitors would like to use that as a thorn, saying that we transfer cars from one truck to another. We readily admit that we do. The difference is that if you went with one of my competitors and wanted to move your car from Fargo, North Dakota to El Paso, it would take you 3 or 4 months. If you did it with me, I'm going to tell you right up front, hey, I'm going to bring that car to my office in Detroit. And guess what I do from Detroit to Texas? I run 4 or 5 trucks a day between Detroit and Texas. So I'm going to get your car moved a lot quicker that way. If you've ever been to any of our corporate facilities, by the way, they are beautiful facilities. Your car's not sitting out in a parking lot, it's sitting in a temperature controlled warehouse that's all cameraed. We're part of CTPAT, which is a compliance with regard to shipping international and bonded products. So, it couldn't be more safe. So we do use that as a strategic tool to help service customers better. Absolutely, we do.
And you shipped some of the most important cars in the world. You shipped the Ford GTs, you shipped for Porsche, you shipped for McLaren. I mean, what's the most valuable load? You may not want to talk about the individual cars, but what's the most valuable load you've ever had on a truck?
We had, was it 2 years ago at Pebble Beach, they had all the Ford, all the original GTs, and you probably had 5 or 6 trucks sitting in that line out there that had in excess of $100 million a piece on the truck. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of responsibility. We sort of take it for granted here because it's what we do. It's only when someone like you asks me about it that I get a little bit nervous. So that really speaks, by the way, to the caliber of driver that we have at Reliable. I mean, I think they are truly our competitive advantage, because you think about the responsibility of having those kind of cars on a trailer, and yet we do that every day. You mentioned the Ford GTs. I mean, we're the exclusive transporter for the Ford GT. For Porsche, we were the exclusive transporter for the 918. I mean, people trust us with very valuable, very important. If it's valuable and time sensitive, we're usually the best choice because of the size of our fleet, the capability of our drivers, the dynamic dispatch that we have, that we can change gears in a second if you need us to. And Lord knows people change their minds from time to time. So, I think part of our competitive advantage is that, we're able to change gears with them. And I think we do that better than anybody else.
And I've been fortunate enough. I've had an experience of having someone pick up one of my cars, and I felt that the drivers made me feel as important with a car that cost $95,000 as somebody, as you were just mentioning, one of the Porsches or one of the McLarens. I felt like I got the white glove treatment. They were very professional. They gained my confidence right away. Now, is that something you try and teach these drivers, or are you blessed that you just happen to find the right group of people?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I mean, it really is. We try to hire people that have car backgrounds, that have, we hire people from the moving and storage business that handled, high-end products like computers and stuff like that, that understand the value and the importance of being somewhere on time. But we do preach that here. I mean, we instill that really the most important car you're handling is the one you're handling right now. And, I tell every employee, any new driver that comes here, that the most important thing is, remember, treat that car like it was your own. And so, yeah, we do preach that. We try to get our people to understand. In many cases, by the way, the value of the car is not necessarily that important. And what I mean by that is, to you, that's the most valuable car you have. It might be the only car you have. And so, you come out of Barrett-Jackson, for example, or RM, or some of the auctions that we service, that person may have saved their whole life to buy that car. So guess what? To them, it's equally valuable as a $20 million original Ford GT. It's just as valuable to them. So we try to get all of our guys to understand that, every car we transport is equally valuable. Now, do I understand the difference between a $20 million car and a $40,000 Corvette? I do. But should we treat them the same way? Absolutely, we should be.
And your guy came and he walked around the car. He looked. He inspected the car. He brought up points. Hey, you have a scratch here. You got this here. I was aware of it. I didn't think about it at the time, but it was like, gosh, this guy cared enough to say, hey, I want you to know the condition of this car when I'm loading it, so that when we get on the other end, we're all on the same page. You do
Right.
that with every car?
We do that with every car. We've gotten a little more sophisticated about it now in terms with the technology of the world today. Now we're taking pictures. We take pictures, and yet we still can record notes that say, the dents here, or the scratches there, or the customer said, whatever the comments are. And that's all on a tablet. So I can actually go on my computer right now. If a driver picked a car up 10 minutes ago, I can go look at his inspection online. And the receiving customer, the customer we pick up from, he gets an electronic copy of that emailed to him. And then when we deliver on the other end, that customer gets a copy emailed. And you're right. The goal obviously is to deliver the car in exactly the same condition as when we picked it up. Now, we shipped 140,000 cars last year. So to tell you that we don't make a mistake every now and then, that a ratchet doesn't fall off a deck, that a strap doesn't come loose, they do. And so, I'm equally proud of the fact that if something goes oops, we're right there to take care of it. We're proactive with the customer, and we get it taken care of.
And your trucks individually are well insured, which is not the standard of the industry.
No, I mean, each one of our trailers from a cargo standpoint carries $5 million standard coverage. Now we have the ability to go, I've gone as high as 65 million. And we again have the wherewithal to be able to do that for a customer. Now, once you get above that 5 million, there is an additional cost to that, but we can provide it. But that's the highest insurance standard in the business in terms of cargo insurance. And then we carry a $50 million umbrella over, the entire fleet from a liability standpoint.
And what people really need to understand is that is not standard. That is just something Reliable Carrier does. That's just a service you provide. It's just part of your deal.
It's part of the quality of the service we're providing. Yeah, and that's when I get back to earlier. I said to you that I think that we're not the least expensive guy. Never going to be. I tell people jokingly sometimes that if it's about the rate, you're talking to the wrong guy. But if you're interested in the best value for getting your car moved, then we should continue the conversation. Because again, part of that insurance coverage, the part that for my 26 years in the auto transport business, I'm always somewhat dumbfounded by the fact that folks will spend tons of time inspecting a car and checking its history and doing all these wonderful things before they pay $1 million for it. And yet when it comes to transport, if you ask them, they'll tell you we're all the same. And nothing could be further from the truth. So, our business is like any other business. There's price points all up and down the scale. So, we're not all the same. And I'm happy to tell people the difference between us and the standard of the industry. I don't pick on my competitors. They have a product offering. I have a product offering. Ours is just different than theirs. That's all.
Now, when you think about the standard car that's going to be shipped 1,000 miles, if I'm shipping a Corvette 1,000 miles, my buddy's shipping a Packard, which weighs twice as much as that Corvette.
Yeah.
Does the weight come into play when you figure the price of shipping a car?
Not so much the weight as it is the size. Because remember, I've got 5 or 6 cars on the trailer. Part of the dynamics of our dispatch is to mix and match that puzzle so that we're not overweight. So if a dispatcher sees it's a 36 Duesenberg, then he knows, okay, that's probably 7,000 pounds. I got to make sure I don't put 3 Duesenbergs on there. Now where we have to manage that a little more closely is going to, like Amelia Island or Pebble Beach, where everybody's sending a Duesenberg. So we've got to be able to mix and match that with a couple Aston Martins and a Fiat Jolly to make sure that, that we're not overweight. But as far as more deciding in a pricing standpoint are the timing that's involved. In other words, does it work into, kind of my schedule? If I can schedule it kind of quote unquote at my convenience. So might be 2 weeks for us to work it into a schedule, where it's going, believe it or not. So, let's just say, using your analogy, that it's 1,000 miles. It's 1,000 miles from Chicago to Boston. I run that lane every day. It's also 1,000 miles to Helena, Montana. Okay. I don't run that lane every day. And when I get to Helena, Montana and drop off your car, my chances of filling that space are probably not very good until I get to maybe Seattle. So I don't charge I charge an upcharge, if you want to call it that, for the fact that I'm probably going to have to run empty with that space. So timing, destination, and size. I mean, I charge more for an Escalade or a Bronco on steroids to go that same 1,000 miles than I'm going to charge for your Corvette, because it takes up more space. And space in an enclosed trailer is obviously very valuable. So if I can't get anything above it, I don't charge a full charge for the second space, but I do charge a premium for the fact that I'm probably not going to be able to use that space above the Bronco with a light bar and 38-inch wheels on it.
What's the biggest vehicle? I mean, perhaps a 4-wheel drive. You're just talking about Broncos and all this thing. What's the biggest vehicle you've ever had to transport?
Well, I mean, part of our challenge is that the manufacturers continue to build bigger and bigger, vehicles. Raptors just barely fit in the trailer. But I've hauled some fire trucks, full fire trucks, all dressed out. So, I mean, the other thing is we have a wide variety of equipment. So there's hardly anything you can ask me to ship that I don't have a piece of equipment that can handle it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What is the most important question a consumer should ask when considering shipping a car, whether it's with you, one of your competitors, but what should they be asking? What should they
Well,
know?
I think the first thing would be to make sure you're talking to a carrier. And I'm not in any way, I don't want to get in any trouble here. I'm not disparaging brokers. Brokers provide a valuable function, but we are not a broker. When you ship with Reliable Carriers, it's going on an orange truck with one of my drivers. So you know exactly if there's a problem, who to call. So I would say first and foremost, do you use your own trucks? Is this going on one of your trucks? Because now you know what the insurance is. You know who to call if there's a problem. You know how to track it. Now all that stuff's in one spot. The second thing is what's your timing criteria? Is your expectation or is your need to have it from Los Angeles to Boston in 3 days? That can be done. It's very expensive, but it can be done. Or are you okay with we call it, our carrier convenience, which is whenever I have a space going that way, which right now runs between 2 and 3 weeks. Are you okay with that? If you are, then the rate is representative of that flexibility.
Do you find that most people plan ahead? I mean, if I'm going to take, I live in Florida, if I'm going to take a car to Pebble Beach, that's California, it's over 2,000 miles from my house. This is not something I would decide to do maybe even 3 weeks before an event. This is something I've probably decided to do several months. At what point to get the best price point and to be realistic in getting a car from point A to point B, how much time should someone allow?
I tell people if you give me 2 to 3 weeks advance notice, and that's 2 to 3 weeks before you really want to ship the car. So I've got an order in the system. But to answer your question the other way, though, you'd be amazed at the number of times that I get a phone call, that, hey, I'm going to Pebble Beach, and Pebble Beach is 10 days away. And you're right, the car's in Naples. Well, I can probably do it, but that's going to cost some money because, what we're committing to under that scenario is you need the car there for Thursday for the driving event. So I'm going to get it there, but because of that timing, I may have to run with just your car and a couple other cars on. But that truck needs to make X number of dollars to go that distance. So your rate's going to be reflective of the fact that I don't have a lot of time to do anything else.
Right.
But if you need the car there, then can I make it happen? I can. But I'm always somewhat amused by the fact that, you make your plane flights, you make your hotels, you have all your dinner reservations, you do everything is in place except, oh darn, I got to get the car there. So I'm used to last minute calls. Oops, yeah, but there's any number of other reasons too. Cars at the restoration shop, supposed to be ready to go. They fire it up and the carburetor goes out.
Yep.
Well, there's no 36 Duesenberg carburetors sitting on the shelf. So you got to go search one, find one, get it shipped in, put it on, hope it works. Well, all that takes time and you were ready to go. So sometimes those circumstances are not anyone's fault. It's just that old adage that stuff happens. And I get it. The upholsterer, I had one a few years ago, waiting for the seats to come back from the upholsterer. Everything was good. Supposed to be there like the day before I was going to pick it up. No problem. Except the seats came back white and they were supposed to be black. So, that's not the customer's fault, but the car still needed to get there. Yeah, but we had to wait to get black seats. So, so we try to be as accommodating as we can be within the confines of the fact that there's 4 or 5 other people on that truck who need to get there too. And, and their seat colors were right. So, that's part of the dynamics of the size of our fleet. You might not go on that truck. I'm going to have to put you on a different truck, but I'll get you there.
So you take a car to Pebble Beach or Amelia Island, truck pulls up, and the car, I assume, literally sits on that truck till the owner shows up and says, okay, we're going to move it out, do whatever. In some instances, running an event myself, I know the cars don't come off that truck till that morning. They go to their spot. They're there for the show. The show's over, and literally those cars roll right back up on top of that truck.
That's correct. Yeah. And that's, some of that is, by the way, I take that as a part of our experience and part of the value you get with reliable carriers. We understand when you go to Amelia Island or Pebble Beach that, yeah, we become your portable garage. And the driver understands that, we try to consolidate the cars in such a way that that driver is going to be there for the weekend. He gets that. He understands that. Cars come off to be detailed. Cars go on to driving event. And some of the cars, to your point, Jeff, they stay on till Sunday morning. They come off, go on the show field, and come right back. So, we're very familiar with that program. So it's not a shock to us. The driver's not going to show up on Thursday and say, who's taking the car, or drop it. Worse yet, I mean, we had one a couple of years ago, Amelia Island. The guy literally dropped the car at Peters Point and left. It was just sitting at Peters Point. Yeah. And after a couple of days of sitting there, we checked with the Concours folks and found out that was a Concours car. And the owner wasn't flying in until Saturday. He had no idea that car was sitting in the parking lot. So we, being the official carrier of the Amelia Island Concours, we loaded it on one of our trucks to keep it out of the weather and keep it safe, and had it for the owner when he showed up. And he was kind enough, by the way, that he canceled his return trip with the other gentleman and booked it home with us. So, and by the way, I'd like to mention again, because, I can't say enough about our drivers. Our drivers did all that themselves. They called the Concours office, found out whose car it was, got a phone number, called the guy, said, hey, not trying to throw stones or anything, but your car's sitting in the middle of the parking lot amongst all of our trucks. Is somebody coming for it? Are you coming for it? And the guy was totally aghast. He had no idea. He thought the car was sitting on the truck. So, my drivers did all that and then called me and said, hey, is it okay to put this on one of the trucks? Well, of course it is. So, that's the caliber of people that we have that sincerely care about, they know that, 39 Duesenberg shouldn't be sitting in the parking lot at Pebble Beach or Amelia Island, that something's wrong here. So instead of just ignoring it, they did something.
Relationship that the car owner has with the car.
Yeah, absolutely.
That speaks a lot about the driver. And that's, this is a passion hobby. We're very passionate about our cars. We're very passionate about all the events we attend. And Lord knows, like you, I see you all over the country. You and I probably crisscross everywhere across the country. And I know what it's like. I understand that commitment. And again, that's, you can't always teach that. Somebody has to care enough, as you were just pointing out, to just step up, take responsibility, and just make sure that in their mind they're doing the right thing.
They're doing the right thing, yeah. And you mentioned the big events and the fact that you and I bump into each other on a regular basis. That I jokingly say that we run into each other and it's all the usual suspects. But I mean, I have a personal commitment to many of these events and to the customers, and so. The reason I'm there is that I tell them, listen, I watch everything from 10,000 miles up, because we have a lot of things going on. At Pebble Beach, it isn't just the Concours. There's literally 20 or 30 corporate events going on. There's displays, there's driving events, there's the vintage races at Laguna Seca. There's a ton of things going on. Yep. My job's to watch out over all that, try to make sure I've got my people in the right place. But at the end of the day, if something's not going right or something's going wrong, or somebody needs something, our customers know I'm there. And most of them have my phone number. So if something's not right, I tell them, call me, I'll fix it. There's some things I can't fix, by the way. I can't tell the Pebble Beach Concours when things are going to happen. So some people also have unrealistic expectations, but at least I can explain that and explain why we have to do it this way. And so that's why you see me at those events. I have a personal commitment to those people that, I'm there to make sure everything goes great for you. The best thing that happens is that you don't even know we're there. Your car's there, you do your thing, you bring it back. We're in the background. We're just to make sure that all that runs nice and smooth for the customer. And he goes home and says, you know what? I had a great time and I'm gonna do it again.
And, those drivers, God bless them. I've driven 17-mile drive so many times. It's a extremely narrow, windy road. And those guys driving those tractor trailers.
Oh, yeah. Try doing that in
you
an
talk about a
85-foot tractor trailer. Yeah.
That those guys, God, kudos to them. God bless them.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a skill.
Going down 17 mile driving a tractor trailer is like a thrill ride.
Yeah.
You know,
Uh, Tell us, what is your most memorable experience or possibly challenge that you've had in your career in shipping cars all over the country?
well, I'm not sure if this answers the question directly, but I think that the thing I'm most proud of, and the biggest challenge we've had, is that we have doubled the size of our company in the last 5 years. So, I'm very proud of that. But along with that comes tremendous challenges from a personnel standpoint, an operations standpoint, information technology, equipment, drivers, you name it. So, but I'm most proud of the fact that we've come out the other side of that thing. I don't think we skipped a beat. And, you've probably heard me say this, I make no apology for being the 10,000-pound gorilla. I like being number one. I really do. And the biggest challenge with that too is, we're a family owned business, have been, always will be. And so we work very, very hard at making sure that even though we're, you know, almost 400 trucks strong and do millions of dollars of business, that, when a driver calls me, he doesn't need to give me his truck number. I know who he is because I recognize his voice. And you see me at the events, I can walk down that line of trucks and I know who everybody is.
Yep.
And they know who I am. And so I think that we've worked, I'm very proud of that because, I think that's the difference again between us and working for somebody else. Here, you're more than a number. You're part of the family. It's part of what we do. And I think we treat people differently. And I think that shows in that pride that the drivers show. They're proud to work here. We're proud to have them.
And again, again, I've seen you at all these events. I've seen you walk up and down the aisles of all the trucks and interact with people. And there's a lot to be said for the confidence that people have when they say, how are you going to ship your car? And everybody just points to Reliable. I mean, it's just, that's what they do. And that didn't happen overnight. You worked, when you got on board there, you really, really had to work to get people to understand what Reliable Carriers was all about. And so that's kudos to you, Bob.
Well, I appreciate that, but I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that this doesn't happen all because of Bob Sellers. I mean, we've got a tremendous staff. And it wouldn't happen without the support of Tom Abrams, who's the owner of our company. It takes money to do what we do, and we invest millions of dollars every year back into our business with new equipment and new technology and the things that we think will help us serve our customers better. So, I'm a facilitator. My wife calls me the enabler. I enable this to happen. But if it wasn't for the support of all those people, none of this would happen. And again, I couldn't say it enough that none of this would happen without our drivers. Because at the end of the day, they interface with our customers far more than I do. They're the ones with the responsibility of that $1 million car. And so, at the end of the day, without the drivers we have, we would not be as successful as we are today.
Tell me, closing thoughts. What is the best advice you could give someone as they're looking at transporting a car? Just what should they think about?
Well, I think, first of all, think about what your needs are. What do you need? An open carrier? Do you need enclosed? How valuable is the car? How important is it to you that it gets from point A to point B in a timely fashion? So, and check the boxes. Ask about insurance. Ask about how long a company's been in business. Do they have a motor carrier number? Are they legitimately registered with the government, which you're supposed to be? So just make sure that don't assume that everybody's the same, because they're not. And that's a very dangerous assumption that gets made by folks, and they only find out the bad stuff when it happens.
That's right.
So, and you alluded earlier about what we do, whatever. We've got the very most appropriate name. I mean, we're reliable. We're really good at what we do. And the best compliment a customer ever gave me, and it's a corporate client, by the way, said that when I give a car to you, I just go on to something else. I don't worry about it. I know it's getting taken care of. That's a wonderful compliment to our organization and the people that are here.
Well, you've done an awesome job. You have, as you mentioned, your drivers are awesome. I haven't had a ton of interaction with them, but I've shipped a couple of times. And you're right. That is the thought. The thought is, I know when they have the keys and that car's on that truck, I don't think about it. I don't have to
Yeah.
think about it. And Bob, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being part of this program. And thank you for giving everybody a great lesson, lots of things to think about when it comes to shipping their cars. And hopefully everybody will ship with reliable carriers.
Well, I hope you're right. But that being said, Jeff, I appreciate you having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and have a great day.
Thank you.